something along the line of the bailout that's going on now. They have a number of, now when I say they, I'm referring to those powers in the shadows that dictate direction. The bailout, for example, did not...
Well, they're not so much in the shadows, Professor Scott. They're the bankers. They're the people we're bailing out. It's the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. They're not so much in the shadows. They're there with their hands out saying, you taxpayers, bail us out now.
Yes, but the only people you actually see are people like Barack Obama and John McCain standing up by microphones talking about a variety of different social problems and that sort of thing. Who is in the White House probably has a decided influence on how much these powers behind the scenes can exercise that power. But we have, now I want to make sure people understand this, that all of our sources in the book Age to Crime Beyond Belief, and the one we're now working on, An Odyssey on the Trail of Chronic Fatigue and Fibromyalgia, all our documentation is government documents or peer-reviewed articles in medical journals and scientific journals. None of this is from second-hand sources such as various books that read like novels about the sources of Ebola and all of this stuff, which is mostly hocus pocus. We are using government documents, so we have documents for all of the things I've mentioned. And
you use their own words.
The air conditioning system in Tahoe, Truckee High School, and so on.
Right.
And the medical journals. So those are the sources that we use. And there is a university in the United States for military doctors only. It's called the, if I can recall it correctly, the Uniformed Services Medical University. And the last director we heard of, and I think he might still be there, I'm not sure, is Dr. Shai-Ching Lo, who is the very guy who patented the pathogenic mycoplasma a few years ago. Now, in that medical school for military doctors, they have several sections on the mycoplasma that are not taught in regular medical schools throughout the country. And in that section on the mycoplasma from the military medical school is where we get the information about the avian flu, which they say will look like influenza, but will really be a mycoplasma illness. And the thing is, because it looks like one thing, and they treat it like that, nobody will get cured, because it isn't really that that's causing the problem. It's the mycoplasma that's causing the problem. And we have copies of this section of the military medical school's journal or calendar, and that is where we get our source of information about this so-called apparent avian flu, which won't be actually avian flu at all. And we've got much more evidence than that, but we can't cite it all over the air because we just don't have enough time. But we do have the information.
Question for you, Professor Scott. Number one, are you anticipating that they're going to be releasing something like this? I mean, do you believe, well, they've got it. Do you think they're going to be releasing it? Was the avian flu a trial balloon?
I think the danger is, well, we know the danger of it being released is still there. But we also know something else. I referred at the top of the show to a 1977 hearing between some senators and the Department of Defense. And the representative of the Department of Defense told how they had managed to take a bacterial toxin, reduce it to crystalline form, and because they had it in crystalline form, they could spread it by air or food or blood. And but he also said something else very, very important, and your listeners should know this very dramatic piece of information. He said we have also used it to develop a toxoid so that people who become ill can be treated and the disease won't spread. Now that is so important. They already know how to cure some of these diseases because before they release them into the world, they do make sure they have the antibody to it, a toxoid which will be used in case some of their own people become ill. And this is in the same government document as the document I referred to about them being able to take the toxin from the bacteria in crystalline form. It's still there.
Now, what should we do? We should avoid vaccinations, if at all possible, I would say. And what else, especially the flu vaccines, because it won't be effective. What else can we do personally, because we can't get our hands on the antidotes? So what else can we do personally? What do you advise, people taking vitamins, or what do you advise?
Well, certainly anything that reinforces the human immune system is vital. And there are a number of things that do reinforce that immune system.
Let's talk about that when we get back. What reinforces the immune system and what can we do? And as soon as we get back, we're going to tell you how you can get a copy of AIDS, The Crime Beyond Belief. So have your pencil ready right after these brief words. To get a copy of the extremely limited edition AIDS, The Crime Beyond Belief, you won't find it in bookstores. You will not find this book in a bookstore. You won't find it on Amazon. You've got to get in touch with Executive Services Limited. That's Executive Services Limited. That's who you make your check to. Executive Services Limited, 30 Brody Avenue, Brodie, 30 Brody Avenue. That's 30 Brody Avenue, Sudbury, 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 Ontario. That's Executive Services Limited, 30 Brody Avenue, Sudbury, Ontario. And let me give out the zip code. P3E2M8. I know it sounds weird, but it's Canada. P3E3M8. P as in Paul, 3, E as in Erskine, 3M8. Or you can go to ErskineOnRadio.com where it's listed and the address is up there. Now, Professor Scott, in the U.S., how much does it cost postpaid to get a copy of AIDS, The Crime Beyond Belief?
It's $5 for the postage and $45 for the book.
So $50.
Yes.
And you also, when you're up there, you can get a copy of the, you can subscribe to the Journal of Degenerative Diseases. You've got information about that when you write in. And how much is that a year?
It's $50 per year, and that includes a subscription to the Journal of Degenerative Diseases, which is a quarterly, and we deal with all of the degenerative diseases, including chronic fatigue syndrome and AIDS, Alzheimer's, Huntington's, Parkinson's, diabetes type 1, and so on. So if you have a family member or yourself with any of these degenerative diseases, then the journal would prove very valuable to you. And even if your particular disease isn't noted at a certain time, it's important to know that all of these diseases are at root one. They are a mycoplasma disease, and the mycoplasma has a great appetite for cholesterol, and when it takes cholesterol out of the cell that it is in, it causes that cell to die. And when the cell dies, it will, for example, cut off the supply of dopamine to the substantia nigra, and you'll say, well, that person's got Parkinson's. Or it will cut off the supply of insulin, and you'll say that person has diabetes. But at root, It's the same disease. So you're not just looking at one disease or another, you're looking at all of these that have